Yeah, so we have the wonderful Sarah Sung, Stephanie Unthank-Latter, and Dean Francis from BAMBA, British Association of Mindfulness-Based Approaches. Just a quick bit about them, I think you may know, but if you don't, BAMBA is the lead organisation overseeing the quality of mindfulness-based teaching, training and supervision in the UK. And in this talk, the EDI task force discusses how they navigate the complexity of EDI concerns through collaborative ways of working that draw upon the diverse perspectives of people with lived experience of underserved, underrepresented and disadvantaged communities, as well as mindfulness and JEDI, I like that, justice, equity, diversity and inclusion expertise. BAMBA aims to find ways to access competent advice and guidance through collaboration to support the integration of EDI into its purpose. Round of applause for BAMBA, please.
Here is just to check in on the body. If you're anything like me at the moment, the digestive system's really woken up as we've just finished lunch. And just, noticing the body. Maybe taking 3 deep breaths. And checking in what it's like just to let go and trust your seat every time you breathe out. And as we gather our attention onto the breathing body, maybe also dropping in a question. What's brought me here today? And as we drop in that question, you may notice the mind going into activity. Why am I here? Maybe just letting that go as you breathe out. And noticing from the heart space. Why am I here? Why are we here? So really feeling into the heart space here and the body. And then on an out breath, letting go, trusting your seat. And one last time, dropping in the question from the gut, deep in the belly. What's really brought you here? Really feeling from the depth of the belly. And then letting go on an out breath. Trusting your seat. And trusting that this is a welcoming space. BAMBA welcomes you. Maybe we can welcome each other. Noticing how that feels. And then in your own time, allowing the feet to wiggle or the hands to move, eyes to open, whatever feels right for you, just to come back to the space. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Really lovely. And I hope you all enjoyed your lunch, and thank you for being here today. We are going to just take you through, and Nick gave us a bit of introduction there in terms of why we're here today and what we're going to speak about. Just some brief introductions. That doesn't really look like me anymore, but that is me on the end. I'm Steph Unthank-Latter, and I'm the director for BAMBA. I've been there for 3 years, and I'm also a teacher, a trainer, and a supervisor of mindfulness. And my role is to oversee the day-to-day operation of the organisation and to deliver on the requirements of our strategy, whether that be the overall strategy for BAMBA, for our members and our member organisations, or indeed our EDI strategy, which is one of the things we'll talk about today. I will hand over to Sarah. Come forward, Sarah. Do your own introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I have spoken to some of you here. So myself, I am from Hong Kong, but I'm based in Spain. Someone said I have a very fancy lifestyle, but it was a matter of choice, but also, personal options. So I come from a background with human resources and corporate wellness. That also combined with my personal interest within EDI topics. And very luckily, Steph hired me. So I started working as EDI task force, along with one of our other team members who is not free to join us today, which is Tony. And my role with BAMBA is to build and cultivate our EDI community and how we can make all of you voices heard and seen in the field, and how BAMBA can support all the professionals in the field.
Thank you, and really honoured to be here with both of you as well. But my name's Dean Francis. I'm a trustee at BAMBA. I've been a trustee for probably about 2.5, maybe 3 years now. And I think why am I here? I'm here because mindfulness has been really transformative in my own life. I'm based in London, East London, which is not very sort of green, it's very concrete, not similar to this actually that I'm experiencing today. But again, it's just been such a transformative journey to engage in mindfulness, to explore innovation, to really embrace all of the diverse communities that I've seen benefit from mindfulness. And it's just a pleasure to be here and to be sort of under the sort of direction of Steph really, and to be part of the EDI team with Sarah and Tony.
Thank you very much. So, slightly unusual maybe for some. I wonder if you've got your phones with you and if you'd like to grab them. We've got some questions that we want to ask you, and there's 2 ways of you answering these questions. And please, if you would prefer not to take part, then you don't need to take part either. We'd be very happy for you to sit and observe and listen to some of the responses that might come up. You can either go to slido.com and type in hashtag 2499883, or if your phone reaches from the distance that you're at, you can hold your camera over the QR code. And if you just give me a second, I will set up the survey. Just going to wait for people to hopefully get to that point. Looking good? I'll come back to it, don't worry. Let me just set this up first. Okay, so you should have questions starting to populate on your screen. Do you belong to any mindfulness membership organisation, including BAMBA? So say yes, and if it's BAMBA, then you can say yes to that too on that same question. That's great, it's still populating. So it's about 50-50 by the looks of things in the room. And then the second question, if you answered yes, can you tell us which organisation you're a member of, including BAMBA? And this is, I can't see, by the way, who's populating the answers, so it's completely confidential. And you'll have the opportunity to write that free format. Okay, so 4 organisations featuring there, and you can see that being populated on the screen. Will be BAMBA, thanks for that. Mindfulness Wales, yeah, so it's growing even more now. Mindfulness Network, BAMBA, Mindfulness for People of Colour, Mindfulness of Wales, BAMBA and IAMBA, OMF. Will be BAMBA, thank you. And then finally, it's not a test. What do you know about BAMBA, if anything at all? And in our usual mindful way, I'll encourage you that there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. Very little, thank you for the honesty. Yeah. So we'll have lots of answers coming up here because they're personal answers to you, your experience and knowledge of us. This really helps for us to just understand, I guess, our position. This is great. Hopefully you can see some of those answers populating in front of you as well and see the diversity of those answers. But the biggest answer of all is very little, so some work to do there. If you're not familiar with Slido as well, the bigger the answer means the more people have said it. Okay? Great stuff. Okay, we'll come back to that shortly. So, who are we? So, we are the British Association of Mindfulness-Based Approaches. BAMBA's been around since 2010, and it started off as the UK network back then, and after about 3 or 4 years of being in existence, moved across to BAMBA and rebranded. We are the UK's primary body of mindfulness practitioners, teachers and teacher training organisations. We've got 23, soon to be 24 affiliate organisations, and essentially what that means is these are teacher training operations of some sort, either teacher training organisations or potentially even academics, universities that are offering some type of approach to training, whether that be a master's or otherwise. And then our register has around about 750 members on the register, and absolutely somebody had written on one of the slides that it's a register of teachers. So it's teachers that have qualified under a recognised BAMBA pathway. And the 2 or 3 that might come to mind and you might recognise are MBSR, MBCT, MBCTL, maybe MBAR and so on. And then finally, this ties in really neatly to what we're going to talk about today. Our mission is to promote safe, ethical and inclusive practices in the field of evidence-based secular mindfulness teaching in the UK. So I've highlighted those words of safe, ethical and inclusive, because we're talking today around EDI. So, again, got some more questions for you. Grab your phone. I'm going to hand over. Different set of questions this time, so it's a new QR code. And this time this is about your view.
So the first question is, how well do you think EDI populations are represented in the field of mindfulness?
Oh, sure, yeah. There we go. It's 8350 094.
So how well do you think EDI populations are represented in the field of mindfulness? through. Nice. Nice. Someone's put an emoji in there, that's really cool. Well done. So again, as you can see, there's some real diverse perspectives on how well EDI is represented in the mindfulness field, right? So the next question, what changes would you like to see BAMBA support in the context of EDI in the mindfulness field? So knowing that we're the kind of register of teachers, supervisors and teacher training organisations, what changes would you like to see BAMBA support in the context of EDI in the mindfulness field? Oh, some changes in regulations, trauma-informed, nice. Neurodiversity, yes. Reducing cost barriers. Oh, beyond 8-week courses, yes. Lovely answers here. Recognize relevant paths, financial access. This is excellent.
Do you have the choice to answer more than once as well? So if there's more than one thing coming up for you, feel free to add something else.
Flexibility in what counts. These are the ones that are just popping out to me that are really interesting. Nice. So we're nearly there. We've got 6 more people typing. This question seems like it's quite alive, right? What can we really do? What would you like to see us do? What counts as evidence? What does quality look like? Really interesting. And as you can see, as these come up, thinking about what can BAMBA do and what's been the responses we've got there, you can really see there's quite a task to be done. Whilst things are in progress and things are happening, I think there is also more that can be done, more accessible courses. And what do we even mean by accessible courses? How can we define that? What does that mean? Is it how it's delivered? Is it cost? Is it geographical location? So much nuance in there. Brilliant. Thank you. So I'm going to share a couple of proverbs, African proverbs with you. And the first one is, it takes a village to raise a child. Right? And just notice the invitation here is to notice how that lands in your body. It takes a village to raise a child. And this really speaks to the idea that we're not self-made. We live in a society, we live in a culture, we practice in communities often. Communities of practice, sanghas, local groups. And it takes a collective to really nurture our being. How does that feel? How does that feel to you? Maybe 1 or 2 popcorn. Product of our environment. For better or worse, right? Nice. A lost sense of the village. I really feel that actually. So this hyper-individualized society that we can get sucked into if we lose sight of our interconnection, right? Brilliant. Thank you. Now this is the other half, another African proverb. A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Oh, how does that land in the body? Bit different? can see it's a bit different to some. Some are like, oh, yeah, that's a bit edgy. I wasn't, but this is it, right? Does it feel good? Well, how you? Right. And what we're trying to, how that speaks to me, and it will speak to us each very differently, but how that speaks to me is that I look at mindfulness being like the child, right? And we are kind of all engaging in mindfulness and nurturing now. And then we have these moments of feeling included in mindfulness spaces, and maybe also excluded. When we think about, when I was asking the question earlier about the diverse, what can BAMBA do? More neurodiversity, more accessibility. And sometimes when we feel very, very separate and isolated, there is a real backlash. And I would say that that's been my lived experience of mindfulness, really. I came into it, it was a really beautiful practice. And then there was a sense of not being included, not fitting in, not being allowed to be authentic. A lot of assimilation, acculturation, and this is how it's done. And actually there was a whole different wisdom that I was keyed into due to the nature of my culture that said, it's the same, but it's different. And can I bring that to the space of mindfulness? And I think, that has proliferated in some ways, the backlash with, books like Mindfulness, and the invitation now is for BAMBA to step up, as I see it, and make the importance of creating inclusive spaces so we don't have those children coming to the spaces and then burning the mindfulness down. That's how important it is for me. When people feel included, when people feel they belong, when we are sharing mindfulness in a way of pure inclusion that's rooted in that sense of, okay, difference is not a barrier to connection, it's the bridge. Welcome. I think mindfulness will flourish in society a bit more broadly. So that's kind of why I shared those two. This is still me, right? So our vision is about addressing inequity and privilege within BAMBA and the field as a wider field. And that's what it's about. It's about, for me, there's a part of this is about protecting the integrity of mindfulness through its compassionate action of including all that come through the door. Right? And our mission is to promote safe, ethical, and inclusive practices that raise EDI awareness and standards in the field of evidence-based secular mindfulness teaching in the UK. And I think this is a really important point. It's about, it aligns with the mission. So this comment here really aligns with the mission, safe, ethical, and inclusive practice. And hands up, sometimes we may not be as inclusive as we'd like to be. Not deliberately, it may just happen. But having the humility to recognize that and say, look, I'm doing my best. I would wish to be as inclusive as we can as a field, as an organization, and sometimes we might fall short, but we're open to learning. And I think that will transform some of what we're doing in mindfulness, and certainly that's what I'm seeing BAMBA wanting to do. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So, I would like to share a bit more about the work that we are doing, or like the key objective of my role, that we are building up an EDI-focused community. And here is two codes that within our team, we are actually doing like a book club within our team. We are reading a book called Awakening Together by Larry Young. And this code, we really feel resonate with and why we are building a community like what we are doing now. So the code is, beautiful beloved communities do not appear just because we feel entitled to them, but because we think they are the way things should be. They build from the ground up with the inner materials of our own spiritual intentions and practice, laying the foundation brick by brick, plank by plank, nail by nail, beam by beam. And this kind of community building is necessary for our collective journey. So we see BAMBA now, we are in a collective journey of building up an EDI-focused community that we see it has been lacking in the past. Yeah. So to share a bit more like an overview of how it has been in our journey. So I joined BAMBA in April this year. And so within the vision that a lot of us, or for those who have a conversation with me this morning, we do see there's a gap here in the mindfulness field that is lacking something related to EDI. We want to do a bit more about it. So it's the same from BAMBA as well. We would like to do more to contribute a bit more about EDI. So our journey from April to now, we have EDI task force engaged in this project, and we have our first meetup in June this year, and we have 45 practitioners that we have handpicked from the very beginning, and 21 of the practitioners have shown up and contribute into this very initial and open discussion. And also, we now have two types of space that BAMBA is holding for the mindfulness field. The first one is called EDI Voices, and then the second one is called EDI Architect. So the difference between these two, the architect one is a professional space that we are holding for practitioners to share and exchange their professional practices, challenges, because we would like to create a safe space for practitioners to share and discuss openly and find solutions together. And also EDI voices, it will be a personal space. As we mentioned within our field, very often we are working as an individual. Sometimes it may create a sense of competition with each other as well within the field. So we would like to hold the space to cultivate the connection as a person, as an individual within this community. So why BAMBA? Now we are focusing a lot of resources in building up the EDI community. It is because from this kind of open conversation and discussion, it broadens the voices being heard in the field. For those who I have collected your email this morning on the paper, it's because I found your voices are really valuable. So that's why we would like to continue this conversation. So this helps us to hear more and be acknowledged a bit more. And then the second one is to contribute to shape our GPGs, our good practice guidelines, processes and practices, and policies as well that help us to scale and help the mindfulness field in general to grow. And also inform the work that we do and how we are doing it and the reason behind. That's why we're very important for the EDI community for us. And the second last one would be to create opportunities to collaborate and educate each other that echo back to why we are holding two different spaces. And to ensure we can represent and reflect the society in our work. We do see BAMBA holding a very important role within mindfulness field, and we would love to, whatever we output from our work is representing and reflecting the needs from the field. So, Slido time. Let's have your phone out, and I would like to invite all of you to share a bit of your view regarding the concept of community with us, and to talk a bit more about how do you see yourself being involved into this EDI community with a BAMBA in the future, hopefully. So the hashtag is 7097, and then So the hashtag is 709775560. So you will see the first question that pop up is, why is being a part of a community important to you?
I should say is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So far, 100% is important. That's why we are all here, I believe. No? The second one is, we would like to hear a bit of your view is what you think is needed to create a sense of community where everyone's feel welcome. Yes, I think. Sorry, just give a second. But this is a deep question. It's like what kind of environment that will create a sense of community for you? Does it mean you can feel maybe vulnerable with, feel trust with? So we have the trust show up twice so far. Recognition, acceptance, trust and respect. Trust again. It's interesting. Also now, I have a question, is like, how do we feel trust? Do we need, what kind of proof or evidence that we need that we are trusted by someone? Out of diverse answers, tolerance, patience. So far, trust still occupied a little bit more from the answers. Thank you very much for contributing to these questions. And we will be last questions. What would motivate you to join BAMBA's EDI community? So BAMBA's EDI community, just give a bit of context on the side. This is something we are doing it on a regular basis. So every quarter we are holding this space twice. So it will be a regular exchanges and the community. This is an ongoing plan. So it's not like a one-off membership community. So by joining BAMBA EDI community, you will be able to maintain contact with the people in the group, as well as us as well. You will definitely see my face every time. I will be the one who will writing you and like hosting the space as well. So a lot of insight here. Low cost is free. So just write me your email address or take a leaflet from our table. To just let me know you want to join, then you will have the invitation on your calendar. Thank you very much for giving us all the insight, because it's helped us to shape how we are going forward, how to run this community. And I will pass it to Steph for the last bit.
I think what is really interesting actually is on that last question that Sarah asked around what would motivate you to be part of the EDI community. We asked that question when we had our first EDI community meeting, and the responses were very similar. So what that's telling me is that there's a lot of people in this room that might want to reach out and start to be part of those discussions and part of those groups. And I would also say that we're flexible, right? If you can't make it every time, that's fine, but you might be able to pop in from time to time and still be able to contribute in a way that is really valuable. And every voice in this room, every voice can make change, can support us to make change and be really effective. One of the things that came up on the last slide is almost like, what are you doing? What are you up to? So it's probably best that I tell you. And these are some of the things that we're doing right now. So our EDI community that was launched in July this year for the first time, after we onboarded both Sarah and our colleague Tawny, is that we now have that community effectively supporting us in reviewing one of the things that really underpins BAMBA's activity, which is our good practice guidelines. So the good practice guidelines, some of you will know as GPGs, it's a policy, it's a set of guidelines that we ask our registered teachers and teacher training organisations to sign up to be part of our organisation in terms of our register, our members register. But also because what sits behind that is that ethical approach that is underpinned by good practice and standards. But what the EDI community is doing with us right now is looking at that policy and effectively supporting us in looking at how we can change it, rewrite it, shape it for a future of EDI integration into the work that we do every day. Now, what we expect to come out the back of that as well is to have a standalone EDI policy for good practice guidelines. So if you're not familiar, we have a teaching good practice guideline, we have a training good practice guideline, we have a supervision good practice guideline, and then we have other good practice guidelines for working in various different environments with different types of clients or client groups. What we don't have is an EDI GPG. Acronyms, we love them, right? But this will be something else that will be born out of that review. So a very, very important piece of work. And then looking at, and this is something that's come up really recently, but looking at and understanding what's the current approach to EDI training in teacher training pathways? Does that actually exist? And of course it does exist for some of the organisations that are affiliated to BAMBA. But actually this is something that needs to be looked at. Is there an actual part of a teacher training pathway over a 12-month period of time where somebody is finishing that qualification and becoming registered as a teacher? What EDI training are they having within that pathway? So some work to be done around that. Delivering on the broader BAMBA EDI strategy, Sarah talked earlier about we have two groups. We have this architect group, and then we have a separate group of voices. And just to reiterate that, in case you do come forward and you want to be part of these groups, the architect group is really about shaping the future of the way that BAMBA integrates EDI into everything that it does. So how do we make change to our current policies? How do we improve maybe the way that we currently go about doing things? Whereas the Voices group is much more about that shared lived experience space. And in the Architects group, there will definitely be some work there, it's already happening, on how do we implement and achieve our EDI strategy. And then these final 2 points, I'm going to talk to the last one first, developing funding applications. We're doing that right now, isn't that great? So within the EDI community, we've actually hired a funding person to come forward and to write, and it's a paid role, everybody, to come forward and to write funding applications for us so we can continue this good work. And golly, she is doing an amazing job. Emily Moxon is unbelievable. She's really stepping up and really helping us with that space. But this second before last point, I wanted to save that one because it's really important, and then we'll open up. And I'm really pleased that we've given a Q&A and a discussion moment here some time. Thank you. Recognising new programmes which encourage broader access to mindfulness teaching, training and practice. Really important, really important. But there's a celebratory moment here in that BAMBA's just recognised a new programme that's going to be listed in the next couple of weeks, and guess what? It's not an 8-week programme. It's a 4-week programme with 1-hour sessions and 10-minute practices. There's something going on there in terms of accessibility, and it's a moment to be celebrated, and it's the CMR programme through Mindfulness UK. So there's a time for us to pause now and to say thank you so much for joining this group today and choosing to be here, but maybe we can take some questions and observations from all of you. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks. thanks. And thank you for that. I hear what you say, and I'm really interested that you're being so open about it. But you know what? This is confession time here. Use your mindfulness. I'm sitting here feeling actually really resentful because I feel excluded from BAMBA. I trained to teach MBCT and MBSR, but I haven't taught them for years because they're not appropriate for the communities that I work with. So, you know, everything you said I really buy into, and apologies Sarah, I bent your ear on this morning. And it is really important there, but I know you're sitting on some of the things that I do teach and not approving them. So it's great that you've approved that 4-week one, but where are the ones that I teach? Why, you know, I think that there are lots of us who are teaching the programs that are much more relevant for the populations, the general public that we need to get to, as well as some of the more diverse areas there that are not being recognised and completely excluded from BAMBA. I feel I'm sitting, interestingly, I'm really quite tolerant.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
I'm surprised at the strength of feeling I've got about that one there. So please, don't just talk about it, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to ask a question.
You've been sitting on these for years, not you personally.
No, I don't take it personally.
You know what I mean? But people have been, BAMBA has been sitting on this for years, and I think that if you're really going to be inclusive, you need to do something really. So I look forward to being included in the BAMBA family. Dean, I've taken you at your word.
Yeah.
I want to be welcome.
I've got a question for you, Liz, if you don't mind. Is it Liz?
Yeah.
I've got my glasses on. Which is not directly at you. I just want to check with everybody, as I'm not panning across, who else feels like Liz? Who else is out there in the field teaching and would love to be recognised by BAMBA and be a member but can't because their programme's not recognised? Yeah. So you've got like 10 allies in the room here already and in a relatively small group. I think I can speak for all of us and the board in that we hear you, and I don't want this to sound like it's not an excuse, Liz, at all. We're a small team, it's a charitable organisation. We are doing all that we can to have these conversations and broaden access. It just takes a bit of time. And I know what you've just said, which is we've been sitting on this for years, kind of, can you get on with it, please? What I would say is that I've been in BAMBA, I said 3 years earlier, I've been in BAMBA 4 years. I've been in BAMBA 4 years, and the board of trustees that we've got right now are the most dynamic board that we've had. They are fantastic, and I think if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be this group. Thank you. My name's Sarah Sun. My name's Stephanie Unthank, so you can take that name. Thank you. One there. Yep.
I've got a very quick question.
Go for it.
So I'm based in the Netherlands.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering what kind of international, or is there any cooperation with the EDI initiatives and mindfulness in place?
Yes, so from an international perspective, I'll answer first and then see if these guys have got anything they want to add. I think our initiatives are all international. BAMBA doesn't, we're not closed off to people outside of the UK. In fact, the register has a number, if not a large percentage of people from outside the UK. The word British at the beginning sometimes puts people off. I always say, but British Airways fly globally, so why can't we? So, you know, our register has a number, if not a good percentage of overseas teachers, trainers and supervisors on the list. There's nothing stopping anybody coming forward and having that conversation with us to make it onto the list. And absolutely, you should be part of the EDI community. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
There's one at the front actually first, and then we'll take one at the back.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute really. Maybe if it's a quick question.
I think it's a quick question. I was interested in what the criteria is, particularly for this group, that the programme that you've just spoken about.
CMR?
Yeah.
So
I'm curious about what the criteria would be for a new programme to be recognised by BAMBA.
Okay. It's going to be, I can maybe speak to you after, but I'll talk to a few key points. So we work in partnership with the International Programme, International Acknowledgement for Programmes, which is the IPA, the international panel that recognise new programmes. I'm really sorry, but I can't talk to the criteria specifically, but I do know that there is a fair amount of emphasis on research. There's a fair amount of emphasis on research, but there's also elements around, for instance, the way that people would be assessed to get onto the programme in the first place, the length of the programme, the sessions of the programme, what the programme is, who the programme is catering for, what the contents of that programme are. But I do know that a lot of it is research based.
Thank
so
you.
where's
That's
the research
helpful.
that holds it up? Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
Take the last one.
Well, we're kind of up to time,
Oh, are we?
probably.
Do you want to come and ask me up here? I will
Is that
wait.
right? Sorry, because I know people like a break.
Oh, people like a break. Okay.
Yeah, just want to say, love the passion there. And thank you so much, Dean, Sarah and Steph, wonderful. Love the quizzes, that was brilliant. Great idea, love that. Yeah, so a round of applause please, yeah, for BAMBA.